Hello and welcome to another instalment of The High Road. Today's episode we're going to be discussing some sensitive topics in relation to suicide and suicidal ideation. We're going to be reading some statistics and looking into that topic a little bit. So if you are triggered or it is a disturbing show for you, it might be worthwhile to skip over to the next episode. If you are having troubles or you are struggling, we recommend that you contact Lifeline on 131114, or if it's an emergency, 000, or your local police station or local emergency ward. Please get some help. Hello, Rem. How are you, mate?
I'm going great. How are you?
I'm very well. What's happening within your world today?
In my world today, not much. I had a relaxing Friday. That's a bit different to me. Usually we're busy doing things, but I feel great after a nice brewed chai, and I'm ready to get conversating.
Oh, conversating.
Yes.
Get immersed in conversations.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, good.
I like to think we're pretty good at that.
I think we're very good at that, actually. We can always come up with something to talk about. People tell me I can talk the leg off an iron pot.
Yeah, actually, it got quite frustrating when I was younger to go to the supermarket with you and you'd say, I'll be back in 5 minutes, and you wouldn't be back for over half an hour when you're doing real estate. Your conversating skills are phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. So hence, I can talk the leg off an iron pot. I was just being pleasant. I like to see people and have a chat. Everyone's got something to offer, you know.
Yeah, well, that's becoming more and more unlikely. People don't like to have chats.
I like to have chats. I'll pull up anytime, anywhere, and have a chat with anyone on any subject at any time. And there hasn't been a time where I haven't come away not learning something. Pull up and speak to people, because everybody has a story, a unique story, very different to yours.
Yep.
And if you actively listen to them long enough, they will pass something across that you didn't know.
Oh, yeah. Everyone I speak to, doesn't matter if I like them or don't like them, I can always learn something from them.
Yeah, correct. And so it's most worthwhile to pull up and have a chat to people.
Yeah.
You
can never know everything.
I agree. And the world is a learning opportunity. And I view myself as the eternal student. You know, nobody can know everything. And anyway, I certainly don't. I know about, I was going to use a word that I shouldn't. You know very little. Anyway, it rhymes with tenth. So if you know what. Anyway, moving right along. Look, today we're going to have a bit of a chat in relation to depression, anxiety, and suicide. In some of the data we've been looking at in response to this topic. Some interesting things have come up, particularly about men and how they display depression and anxiety. Men, psychological coping mechanisms largely dysfunctional, which leaves them very vulnerable. It's also been discovered that men are reluctant to acknowledge depression. They prefer to go down that road of, I'll be right, she'll be right, leave me alone, and stop talking, just leave me alone.
Far too often.
Agreed. And
on matters that are very serious.
Agreed. And as we've spoken about before, men have a bit of an issue articulating their emotions. Now, they haven't really been taught how to verbalise things quite fully due to, I dare say, to social constraints and being brought up to be a little bit tougher and stand on your own 2 feet and that sort of attitude, which is proving to be detrimental in this day and age, particularly when men are trying to deal with the rigours of 21st century life and the changes that are going on in society that they have to adapt to. So these are some of the things that we're going to speak to and would like to go right down the rabbit hole on. Other things that have come up with is that men experience depression in specific ways, which is a bit different in symptoms. Then they don't usually display sadness or worry.
I've got a list here. I wrote down a couple of notes about that. So it's very important on how we measure it in studies.
Yep.
Is how the sexes differentiate and how they display symptoms.
Very good point.
Very important.
Yep, continue. Good point.
Yeah, and I took a couple of notes here, for example, was like, I have a concern that in research that the data isn't really accurate in considering how men display depressive symptoms first of all, they don't like to admit it, as we've spoken about. They do adopt that language of, I should be right. Like, even just last week, I was talking to a friend, and we're talking about some issues, and I don't like to pester people on how they should sort out their life. I say I give my piece, and then, they do whatever they want. Can't force them to do anything. They'll talk about some issues, and they're like, it'll pass. And I turned to them and I said, well, not really. It's not all right. Like, it's gotten control of you so much and taken up that much of your headspace that you've felt the need to talk about it, which is great, for one. And I said, well, it's not just she'll be right. Like, I think that's pretty serious because maybe it will blow over.
Yes.
But the chances of it won't, if nothing gets done, is pretty high as well. Yeah. Anyway, for example, like, one of my concerns is that men's expression of depression is characterized by symptoms that are not captured by diagnostic criteria in commonly used clinical depression screening tools. For instance, the diagnostic criteria for major depressive disorder focuses on symptoms including sadness, inability to feel pleasure, not feeling worthy, and I'm pretty sure they mention sleep and appetite disturbances as well. However, in an attempt to better conceptualize male depression, studies have consistently indicated that men's expressing depression are more likely than women to exhibit symptoms of irritability, anger, substance misuse, risk-taking, impulsivity, and over-involvement in work, which every factor I've just listed there is a factor of suicide, risk of suicide. And I think those are more external factors. I believe that they were saying in that paper that I read that out of, I just pulled that out of Google Scholar, but they were saying that's more of an externalizing factors that men display instead of internalizing it.
Correct.
And there's multiple reasons for that: personality, upbringing, environment. So yeah. What do you got to say about that?
That's great. That's very accurate. That's very accurate. And just going back a little bit in relation to studying things and split issues by gender, is because as science progresses in the 21st century, we're realising more and more, we've known for a long time, but we're realising more and more and more that we're individually very complex. And we have learned that there isn't a one-size-fits-all for anything. So we need to start to break humans down into their genders and start specifically catering for their needs, individual needs. As I only heard last night, that to a seminar I went to, that individual nutritional plans for what you eat is in our future. So we'll actually have a devised nutritional plan for what you eat and what you can eat, because foods and diet is related directly to depression and obesity and all diseases.
Yep.
Right. It can be about diet. And they're saying that individual nutritional plans are on their way.
Yeah, they already are here. I remember Gary Brecker was talking about it. They can do like a swab of your mouth or something and give you all the nutrients you need that your body's lacking.
Yeah, that's right. And he spoke about that they can actually test you for different genes because your body may be lacking in specific areas and your body can't uptake certain nutrients in your food, and you can supplement and work towards providing your body with that supplement. Correct. Hence, that reinforces the complex nature of the human being and the human species.
That's very interesting you say that, because I've seen a lot that when people are feeling depressed or they've lost their way a bit, one of the first things they do is take up a keto diet.
And again, the benefits of taking up a keto diet, it not necessarily has to be 100% keto, but certainly cutting down on your carbohydrates, sugar intake, caffeine intake for a period of time, 4 to 6 weeks, will change you physiologically like you cannot believe. Like I started that diet in January 23 as a New Year's resolution. I thought, oh, well, let's pick one. Oh, let's do that, and did that. And after going through the keto flu, they call it, which is very flu-like symptoms, lethargy, headache, had a consistent headache for nearly a week off and on, and drops in your blood pressure drops considerably. So therefore you're lightheaded. When I was bending over to pat the cat, and I stand up again, I better grab hold of something. That went on for a week or more, a little bit over about 10 days. until my body stabilized and my brain switched over from being from running on sugar, being energized from sugar, switching over to fats, because that's the essence of a keto low-carb diet, is your body transitions from using sugar as fuel to using fats as fuel. Because for over 200,000 years, man has run around the planet with spears and things along those lines and speared animals, and their diet consisted largely of fats and high-protein meats. Women did forage for berries and certain fruits, but they were in small supply. So the large majority...
No Coke back then.
No Coca-Cola back then, no Macca's either, or pulling up at KFC. Oh, shouldn't. Anyway, we won't support the multinationals at this particular point of time. But anyway, we've had pretty much a high-protein, high-fat diet for like 200,000 years. It's only been in the last, I think, 70 years that we've introduced a high carbohydrate, high polyunsaturated fats, and massive amounts of sugar into our diet. So therefore, going back onto a low carb diet does amazing things to your body in the short term, but in the long term, it gives you clarity of mind. Your thinking comes back. Your vision clarity comes back. Your energy levels go through the roof. The amount of food you need to consume on a daily basis, I'd say, probably reduces by about 60%.
Yeah, and if you fast as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because your hunger is almost non-existent. So fasting becomes a reality. I used to eat a good 3 square meals a day. I'd have morning tea and afternoon tea, and I'd be a big snack person as well before I went on the diet. And I just was constantly hungry. I just couldn't deal with this appetite. Well, I did. I used to eat. I used to try and eat good stuff, fruit and nuts and stuff like that, but I was constantly eating. When I went over to the low-carb diet, I didn't have to eat so much. So now I'm down to after going from breakfast, big breakfast too, I used to do eggs and toast and salad. And then I do a lunch, a bit more salad or a tuna and salad sandwich on wholemeal bread, and then a dinner. And in between I'd have biscuits for morning tea and maybe a bicky for afternoon tea and nuts in between and things along those lines. I've gone from that to, well, nowadays I eat when I need to eat, not when I want to eat. So I now identify when I'm hungry, and then I fulfil that need. Today, most days I'll have we bake our own almond meal cheese muffins. I have one of them, only a really small one. It'd be half the size of a muffin you buy in a coffee shop. And I usually have a fruit smoothie with berries, banana and mango with a bit of coconut milk and water. So with a bit of protein powder, because I do need to keep my protein up, and I'll have a dinner, a small salad and some grilled fish or, I don't know, something I can think up with vegetables in it. And that's pretty much me. Sometimes after dinner I'll have a little bit of fruit salad and coconut yogurt. I've reduced my intake of food by at least 60%.
We have no idea how much that actually helps mental health and mental clarity.
Absolutely. And adding on to this, in conclusion, I originally lost 14 kilos, and my wife has lost 30 kilos with this initiative. Because as I've found out since then, with the consumption of high amounts of carbohydrates require fluid to maintain, for you to maintain it. And when you add lots of sugar into your diet as well, that spikes your insulin. And your body needs insulin to store fat. And when you eat sugars and carbohydrates together, the carbohydrates gets transformed immediately into fats. So your body stores the fat and runs off the sugar as energy. What happens when you remove the sugar and carbohydrate out of your diet? The body has to go through a wobble to get out of that energy phase and it's craving sugar. First 24 hours, 48 hours, like I'd tell you what, I'd murder a Mars bar, right?
Yep.
But then that went away. You do have to put some effort in. This is not going to walk up to you and be real easy ride. Like the first 4 or 5 days can be a bit wobbly, but if you're determined to get get down this road and you want to lose a bit of weight, this is the fastest, most effective weight reduction program you can ever have.
Yeah, and I reckon the best response to mental health.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Clarity of mind.
Yeah, it's a huge behaviour change though. It's a massive behaviour change and a habit change. You don't eat that much. You fast. Fasting's in the Bible. Like, it's been around for a very long time and it's very, very powerful. But yeah, I think people underestimate it, I reckon, and people can't change the habit. It's like they can't eat probably 80%, 90% of the foods they're already having.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why when we initially decided to do this, I made a New Year's resolution. Why? Because everyone does New Year's resolutions and no one sticks to them.
They last about 3 weeks.
Right. So I thought to myself, let's just try. I was just saying to my wife, let's just try this. Let's not be silly about it. Let's give it a go. It's only three weeks. Let's say give it 3 weeks. It's only 3 weeks out of our lives. Let's make a little change. If it doesn't work, we'll just go back to what we're doing and, go back to the drawing board. So we were discussing that in, say, September before New Year's Eve. So September come along and October come along and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, I wouldn't mind just having a fast off sugar for a while. Just to drop sugar and carbohydrates for a little while to see what happens. Right? And then that's what I was thinking about. And all of a sudden a book drops in my lap by Dr. John Radcliffe. Low Carb Made Easy is the name of the book. And actually a friend of mine, he emailed it to me. And I downloaded it on my phone and just started flipping through it and having a read, which that bit of information provided an avenue to be able to start down this road. So what happens in that time through October and November, so instead of having 2 slices of bread with me 2 eggs and salad for breakfast, I started having 1. And then I went for 1 for a while, that was through October. And I thought, okay, that's getting pretty easy. Then I thought, okay, I'm not going to have 2 pieces. I'm not going to have any toast with me eggs and salad. So, yes, the first time, that was really difficult.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was weird. Like, eggs without bread, that's weird. Anyway, so that's all right. Anyway, I did that once or twice because I can always the next time I have eggs, just have a couple of bits of bread. It's a big deal. You just do it once. So I did it once, did it twice. Okay, no worries. I did that. So long and the short was, by the time December come around, it's coming up to New Year's Day, I'd already started to eliminate things out of my diet, like bread and like pasta. I won't have so many pasta meals because I love pasta, I love rice. So I won't have so many of those meals. January 2 come around. I said, I'm only going to do this for 3 weeks. Easy. I'd already done the hard miles. I'd already worked on bread for a couple of weeks. I'd already worked on pasta for a couple of weeks. I already worked on rice, right? So when I got up there, it wasn't such a shock because I'd spent 3 months getting my mindset into a reality where this is going to happen. So, we did that. And actually other people in the house were watching me because I wasn't preaching or anything like that. I was just doing it. And through role modelling, other people started doing the same. So, Meg started reducing by 1 piece of bread with her eggs and we did that sort of stuff. Anyway, we went into the 3 weeks and we did the 3 weeks and come out the other side and then we did 4 weeks and that was also inclusive of no alcohol at all. I do like a beer on a hot day. No alcohol, and that's why I didn't start the New Year's resolution to January the 2nd because I wanted to have a couple of beers on January the 1st, as all Aussies do. So I did that and started on January the 2nd. Anyway, 5 weeks went by, 8 weeks went by, 6 weeks went by, 3 months went by, and I said to my wife, what do you think? She goes, oh, this isn't too bad. The energy level's through the roof. I'm feeling great. Sleeping like a baby. I'd never slept like this before in my life. Sleep was insanely good.
How long has it been now?
We're coming up 18 months, I think.
Wow.
And again, I'm not going back to that diet. I'm not doing that again. I'm not changing this. No. But go back to, and I can't. Someone says, hey, have a sandwich. No. I don't need to eat that bad anymore. I'm not famished. And if I am, I can wait. It doesn't really matter. I'll know I'll eat something. And, when you're hungry, you're down the street, you haven't eaten. Nowadays, I've changed my behaviour as well. Instead of going to the hamburger shop and say, give us a piece of flake, 2 Dim Sims, or a hamburger, or pop into Macca's and fries and a burger. No, don't do that. If I'm hungry and I'm down the street and I'm not home, straight to the supermarket, pack of strawberries, maybe a packet of organic cashew nuts. They have a little bit of carbohydrates in it. See, now I've been doing it so long, I can introduce little bits of good carbohydrates back into my diet. There is a few carbohydrates in nuts, but I'm not eating a heap of them. I barely eat a handful of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a couple of strawberries or some fruit or an apple or a banana. That's what I'm doing now when I'm out and I need to eat.
Yeah.
So it can be done because what's happened now is the neurological pathways in my brain, which they call it neuroplasticity, has created new pathways in my brain. So now it's second nature. And now I'll look at a sandwich and go, that looks really good. It presents really well. Do I want to eat one? No. I'll look at it, but I don't want to eat one. So that's happened now. It's quite easy. And if I may go on and just, it's a bit off topic, but if I may go on, one of the most difficult things I had to go through was in the early stages, like we're talking the first, like January, February, we go to family dinners. And of course, at the family dinners, there's always 2 or 3 desserts there. And I love desserts. I love cake. I love biscuits. I love custard.
No more.
So I had to sit there, and whilst they divvied out 16, like there's 20 of us at the meal at usually the family meals, and they chop up they chop up the desserts, and they're all beautiful homemade sponges, and proper sponges. They're standing like 10 inches off the plate, and cream and proper sponges, proper trifles, and proper pavlovas, things along those lines. Well, they're laden with sugar, and so no more. So that was really difficult the first few times. I mean, that was really, really tough because I'm a big fan. And as I have been from a kid, I've been programmed since I was a kid, right? Dessert was the best time of any meal, right? So I had to break that behaviour. And I started sitting there and sitting through it while other people were, so my wife, we both toughed it out. And sitting there watching that process. Interestingly enough, the first time was difficult. The second time was difficult. The third time I noticed that the whole process of getting the cake out, and usually it's birthdays, singing the happy birthday, cutting the cake up, handing it out to everybody eats it, piles the plate up, and the plates are back in the sink, is a window of between about 7 and 9 minutes. So if you can sit there for about 7 minutes, the whole process is taken away from under your nose. In that, you only have to endure that temptation to participate in that ritual and that sugar and that flour and icing sugar and all that sort of stuff for about 7 minutes, and it's gone. Today, people know we don't eat sweets, and it's neither here nor there.
It could be taken with anything too. You feel like a smoke, just wait out that someone else having a cigarette for 7 minutes and go back inside.
Good advice. It helps if you don't, with smoking, don't go and stand with the smokers when you're going through that period, right? Smoking is a little bit different in terms of addiction.
Yep.
But don't go and stand with the smokers, right? Try and keep away from the influences of the smell and the look and the ritual and, getting it out and talking to your friends and the ritual, tapping your smoke on the packet and, all that sort of stuff. And stay away from that ritual until the plastic pathways in your brain have formulated properly and you're a bit more stronger in your resolve to resist, right?
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. Smoking is the same. You'll find that a person goes, I'm going for a smoke. They'll duck outside. You find something to do. They'll be back within 5 minutes and the process is done.
Yep.
And as you clear your nasal passages and your throat of the toxins from cigarette smoke, you'll find that you'll start to be repulsed by the smell of the person that returns from smoking. With all due respect to the smokers, and I get it because I smoked when I was younger, and so I totally understand. But I mean, when you smoke, you carry all that tobacco smell on you, and it does. You do permeate. You do radiate it a little bit until it dissipates a bit, and you can. And when you're trying to give up smoking, it's like, wow, you don't notice it so much when you've given up smoking. But when you're in that vulnerable part, your body's craving it. So, yeah. But you're right. It's only a few minutes and you can get through it, and then you can go through the next period of time till your next temptation. And then if you keep on doing that, it's only a number of weeks, right? But you're going to have to be persistent. You will get over that. You'll move right on.
Yeah, it's like a bit of addiction plays a lot into mental health.
I think so too. Anyway, moving along, we were talking about at-risk behaviours and men's coping mechanisms.
Yeah, and what characterised men's and women's depressive
That's
symptoms.
correct. And gender differences when we're looking at data collection and or interventions or services and diagnosis. We were looking at gender differences before we got way off track, and that's okay.
But it's all right because keto's very important. Diet's very important.
Absolutely.
I've got some statistics here if you'd like to hear them.
Yes, please. Go right ahead.
So this is the suicide rate of men and women in 2021. A total of 3,134 people took their own lives, and precisely 75% were men, which were 2,358 male suicides and 786 female suicides.
Yep.
So about like 3/4, 4/5 of suicides were among males. It's been like that for years. I reckon almost a decade.
More.
Yeah, more.
Decades.
It's always been floating around in that 75, 78% area. That's where it's always been. It's never really moved from there. It's gone up and down a couple of percent here and there, but usually the rate of male suicides out of all suicides is about 75 to 78%. I think it gets more, and I think the statistics get increased when it goes to younger people. I was attending a seminar about a year ago, and they were talking about young people that suicide, and it was 86 point something percent.
Yep.
I don't really know the statistics exactly. That was by young boys. That's incredible.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Well, they are saying, the statistics are saying, and you can look it up anywhere, that suicide is the number one cause of death between the age group of 10 years of age through to 34. Keeping in mind that's Western world's statistics. But that's pretty much the statistics that we go off here in our culture anyway.
Yeah, it says here male suicide is still number one killer. And that's about 8 Australians per day die by suicide. That's 6 males and 2 females. Yeah. That is scary.
It is scary. And I'd like to add to that, there was a fluctuation of suicidal tendency in men, which it did fluctuate over 80%. I think it almost touched 90%. And that was through 1929 to 1939. Where the ravages of the Great Depression kicked in. See, economic stress increases suicidal ideation and suicide. That's been proven.
Yeah, that's interesting when they do not teach anything about it.
Yes, that has been proven, and there's been some other phenomenal statistics. I think it was the age group between 25 and 65. I think it's the 3rd or 4th highest cause of death in that age group, and then it peaks again for men, specifically men, over the age of 80.
Really?
Yes. You get to 80 years of age and you want to commit suicide. That's a phenomenal. But they're saying that some of the issues that are related to that is that the gentleman has been in a long-term relationship, 40, sometimes 60 years marriage, and his wife has fallen ill, and he's lost his wife. And so therefore, they've been engaged in traditional roles where he's been working, gardening and fixing the house and making sure everything works properly. And she's been looking after all the cooking and the cleaning and all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden his diet goes down and his depression goes up, and then the family get concerned about him and feel that maybe he would be better off in a nursing home. He goes into a nursing home where he gets his own room. And then he feels more isolated because he doesn't know anyone there. He hasn't got his wife to talk to. Depression goes up, and then suicide ideation kicks in.
That's interesting. So around early adulthood, suicide.
A child, imagine 10-year-old. Yeah. I just can't conceive that personally. Yeah. Personally, that's a tragedy. What the hell is going on there?
Yeah.
When we're talking 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, like that's tragic. Anyway.
What's going
on?
Not
as clear. Well, it's not as clear cut as it looks,
Yep.
And I know that comes out of the blue for some parents and really smacks them in the back of the head. And my heart goes out to those parents trying to deal and work through that. God bless you. God bless you. Anyway, there's lots to be said about that. We can go further, but I'd like to move on from that subject. But that bewilders me, that aspect of it.
Yeah, well, I did read somewhere that it does peak early and then drop a little bit in early adulthood, 65 over, and then it jumps again at 85 or over. And I think that has something to do with Erickson's psychosocial stages.
Yep.
Because I think about 65 onwards, they hit a conflict, he calls it, where it's integrity versus despair, and the virtue of that age is wisdom or knowledge.
Yes.
Knowing the meaning of life,
Yep.
As much knowledge as you can. And it's really weird how that happens at that age.
That is amazing.
You usually assess and make sense of life and meanings of contributions. So
Correct.
that's what probably lowers the suicide ideation and depression rates, I think.
Yep.
That's just shooting from the hip here. But that definitely has a part to play, I reckon, that stage of psychosocial stage.
Yes, and you're right. That stage of psychosocial development is around 65, is where you get an opportunity to accumulate enough wisdom to be able to look back over your life and to examine your use of time.
That's probably why it dips. Yeah.
So therefore, there's two outcomes though. Isn't there? It's called the stage of contemplation. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember back in the stage of contemplation. I think it's called. And you can either be very, very happy with where you're at and what you've achieved and your families and things along those lines, or you can find yourself plunged into the depths of despair because you've realised that there has been flaws in your approach. You could have done things a whole lot better, but you don't have the time to go back and rectify it.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
That's the Erickson's model, is it?
Yeah, that is.
Erickson's.
That is. I'm just doing a quick look here. Yeah, integrity versus despair.
Yep.
Yeah, so acceptance, a sense of wholeness, lack of regret, feeling at peace, and then despair is bitterness, regret, as you were saying, feeling that life was wasted, and depression. Yeah, so I think it really goes two ways. I guess, like, they become a lot more family orientated.
Yep.
They realise, I was having a talk to an elderly gentleman before, and he was just, and this came through really clearly for me. He used to rush around work,
Yep.
like drive himself nuts, and it's not good on the heart when you're really stressed at that age. And he was working long hours and stuff, and then he told me that just one day he sat back and just went, I'm not going to rush anywhere. I'm going to take the long way home along the beach road so he can enjoy the scenery. And that was right there, his integrity and despair, where he was having a shift from rushing around to rethinking about his actions because it was playing on his heart a little bit at the time.
Yep.
So it was just like that shift, or an early shift, if that makes sense, of perception on situations. So it does come through. But yeah, I think that does contribute to a kind of like a dip in suicide ideation and depression rates.
Yep.
Or part of it, I think.
Well, that's for some of the community, and not for others.
Not for everyone, no.
I read somewhere that there was a peak in suicide ideation for men around the late 40s into the early 50s. Now, whether that's I don't know if that's debt related. I don't know whether that's you're like 20 years into your job, 20 years into your relationship, 20 years into debt. Whether that Erickson's model, psychosocial model, is kicking in earlier for 50-year-olds instead of 65 at that particular point of time. I think people do get to reassess their situation. 50 is a big number. It's a big birthday.
Yeah, it's the generativity versus stagnation.
Yes. So it's again, what do? Do you go forward or do you stagnate and stay where you are? So that could be a bit of a problem, and a worthwhile theory to look into when we're looking into motivations, suicidal motivation.
Yeah,
and for suicide ideation and attempts at self-harm.
And I noticed that with my grandfather. When he was in his early 80s, you could really tell that it was having a bit of an impact on him.
Yep,
because he had a neurodegenerative disease.
He did,
where he couldn't really move much anymore, and he was a very independent man, and his independence was taken away from him through his disease, so he was wheelchair bound and stuff, and you could really see that he was pretty much done. He was just, and he straight out told me and my grandma, he said, if something happens, he has like a stroke or a heart attack, just leave him.
Yep.
He was quite comfortable.
Yep.
Just, I don't want to be saved.
Yep.
Yep. So, yeah, that's interesting. That was, early 80s. So, yeah.
His age was early 80s?
Yeah, he was early 80s. This disease really, I guess, got to him. Yep. And he was ready to move on.
Well,
God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you, Alan. As you know, psychological well-being is a collective of all positive mechanisms that come together to provide you stable psychological well-being. And if that equilibrium is disrupted through disease, that psychological well-being can start to deteriorate, and you'll end up in depression. But again, he was a very spiritual man. He was a reverend, and he worked with the Council of Churches, Australian Council of Churches, for a long, long time. So he was very spiritual. So therefore, I dare say there would have been some sort of, what words would you use? Like a spiritual foundation which he could lean back into and have a little bit of comfort there.
Yep.
You get what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, he was provided with a little bit of cushioning for the blow of inevitability. And religion has that beautiful ability to do that.
Yeah, and that's a strategy we'll talk
about a bit later, yes.
Soon.
Anyway, we were looking at things. Now, for depression, we were looking for warning signs in men, and they can be quite distinct. And unfortunately, the warning signs that are in this list, they do tend to portray a person or a man who's, let's put it gently, you don't really want to be around. Some of those warning signs are being quite irritable. Yeah, all men get irritable, they get tired and sweaty and things along those lines. But if it's over and above the normal level, how can you be over and above normal irritability? But anyway, you know the people around you, the people you live with and your loved ones, when they're irritated, they're normally irritated, the lawnmower won't start or whatever the case may be, and they got their little idiosyncrasies. But if it's over and above that irritability, you'll be, I'd take a bit of notice. More aggressive towards others is another warning sign. Continuous on autopilot, not really thinking. Their preoccupation. Preoccupation can be a couple of things. They've got a lot in their mind, obviously. They're just operating on autopilot, and they like they're miles off. They're off another world.
Yep.
There's things along those lines. Excessive alcohol use, poor impulse control. A need to fall back into the comfort of alcohol more than normally, beyond the celebratory drink to at a christening or a wedding or things along those lines. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that starts at a very young age. To get out of, I guess, hard situations, alcohol is a good thing to fall onto as a temporary relief.
Correct, and it's also a very good remedy to alleviate the symptoms of anxiety.
Oh yeah,
it also relieves you of the immediate stresses in your life. So when you're drinking, everything sort of seems to fade away, and if they don't fade away, you just keep drinking until they do. Alcohol is an interesting topic. Deaths from alcohol-related use and or abuse is 6 times higher for men than it is for women.
Wow.
Yes, wow. And there is that is the just the general statistics around specific alcohol use. But there's actually high alcohol use can be comorbid with other illnesses, right, that kill people as well. Diabetes, heart disease, things along those lines. We're not just talking about liver failure or sclerosis of the liver or cancers of the liver or mouth or throat or esophagus, which is related to high alcohol abuse as well. So there are related illnesses that alcohol contribute to, but it's not specific to alcohol. So it's pretty high impact in terms of our statistics and the longevity of health and well-being. It's a contributing factor to acts of violence, murder, sexual assault and suicide. Did you know it's being discussed at the moment that without alcohol, sexual assault would just about be non-existent?
Really?
Yes. That's fascinating, because in reported sexual assault instances, nearly 100% of them have alcohol-related scenarios leading up to the event.
Just alcohol or the drugs?
Well, the drugs are also involved, but alcohol is the predominant factor. It's also, was it statistics, was it 50 or 60% in America, 50 or 60% of murder victims are drunk?
Yeah, something like that.
The perpetrators of murder are drunk.
Yeah.
And I think it's as high as that, 60 or 70%. The victim and the perpetrator are both drunk, right? So it's either one or the other. But alcohol is a major factor in those murder statistics.
Yeah, there's been some brutal crimes committed in America.
Yeah,
and a huge thing is like, oh, we're having a couple of drinks, and then bang, it just went south.
Yes, exactly.
So, you know.
And the readily availability of handguns and concealed weapons exacerbates that. I've done a bit of research recently into some of the violence on the streets culminating in murder in the US. And, there's high percentages of murder perpetrated by 17 to 23, 24-year-olds. Lots of that's drug-related and alcohol-related.
I wonder how much is that mental health related, but they're on drugs and alcohol to not deal with them.
I think it'll all contribute, and I think economic situations, because usually often these people come from lower socioeconomic communities, with all due respect, and so there is other things missing in life, like employment, education, things along those lines, broken families. So they are all contributing factors. There's also status and notoriety, because with social media, a lot of young people now are comparing themselves to other people on social media, and they all want to display their bravado behaviour and things along those lines.
Basic psychological needs aren't all there.
Yeah, but it's not. And in the United States, children as young as 14 years of age are charged as adults, and they are committing murders as well. And it's just life in jail, like over and over and over again. The amount of children they're locking up for life is staggering.
Yeah, wow.
It's amazing stuff. Anyway, moving right along. The other thing with alcohol use is that it has the ability to numb distress. It conceals negative emotions. It can affect reasoning. It promotes high-risk behaviour, and reinforces self-reliance over professional help. So if you're thinking that you'd be drinking, someone say, "Oh yeah, you're all right," and, "No, I'm right, I'm fine. You should see somebody." "No, I don't need to see anybody. I'm right." So it reinforces that self-reliance, and men are very big on that. They tend to do that a lot. "Oh, I'm not feeling well. I got something wrong with me. Oh, go and see a doctor." "No, I'll be right." And a lot of men leave that way too late. And that's one health issue, and that's for just general sort of general health, where you go and see a GP and I've got a problem with me. I've got a problem. Can you help me out? They won't. They'll tough it out until the nth degree. Geez, you're walking funny. Okay, yeah.
That's why they're
maybe
so
you should see a doctor.
Yeah.
No, I'll be right.
That's why they're so reluctant to seek help to do with mental health.
Again, and this is one of the biggest problems, where it gets to such a point that it just gets beyond any sort of intervention, particularly if they're isolating, but there's some other things. We'd like to talk about a handful of strategies that may help if you're going down that road, struggling a little bit. Keep in mind, depression is like a snowball. Starts off really small, and then it grows and picks up speed and picks up momentum and picks up intensity. So you have to identify that you may be suffering a form of depression. And it's okay. We all suffer depression one time or another. Of course, you turn up a family funeral, you're not going to be the happiest fat lad in the street. You lose a pet or something goes wrong, and life is like that. It happens all the time. Of course, we all suffer depression. But when that's been long-term, consistent feelings of being down, or everything seems to be building up, or it's just all getting too much, long-term, you maybe have a problem.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that, when we did our mental health first aid, we were encouraged to go and approach people that appeared to be possibly suffering depression and or suicidal ideation. One of the strategies is to ask them if they're all right, a bit like the Are You OK program that comes around once a year. Are you okay? Go around and ask a friend, are you okay? I think that's one of the greatest initiatives that we've come up with. We should run that a couple of times a year and be a bit more prevalent with that, because I think that's very effective. But we were taught in mental health first aid to just pop the question, you okay? You suffer from a bit of depression, right? And I recommend the people that are in that position who are willing enough to ask because they care enough about their friend, colleague, associate or family member that you ask that 3 times, and you trust your gut feeling whether you're getting a true answer or not. And for those of you who are being asked that question, that other person that's asking you that question are concerned about you and they have feelings for you and they don't want to see harm come to you. That's why they're asking. And if they ask the 3rd time and you have a word on the tip of your tongue that's just going to pop out, you let that word pop out because that'll start the floodgate of releasing that emotional tension that you're holding in your chest and in your body that's giving you that pain. You just blurt out the word that comes to your head and let that conversation go. And you'll find it is an amazing amount of release. You're not being weak. You're not being scared. You're not being a whinger. You have to get that stuff out. You can't hold it in there because you ain't got enough body space to hold in that torment and that emotional tension. You can't do it.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the main ways that we can reduce suicide rates, mental health rates. You just start talking more.
Correct.
Just start talking more.
Correct.
Talk to your friend, your family member, whatever. It isn't weak. It isn't anything. I remember seeing this video online that was, it was just like a bunch of videos put together. And it was a girl asking, who do men talk to when they feel down or who's that? I think the woman was asking, who's that one person you talk to, men out there, that like when you're feeling down and feeling sad? And it was all these men that had responded in videos and it was all put into one big video and every single man said they had no one that they go to talk about things.
Yep.
They don't whinge or they have no one to fall back on. And half the time, if you're in a certain friend group, they don't even want to hear it.
Yeah, correct.
So, and that's why most men were saying, you guys, you girls out there have someone to talk to when things get tough, when you're emotional. That's actually a thing. I think they were just joking a bit, but they were more saying from like their perspective that they had no one, and most men automatically don't assume that someone's always going to be there for you, if that makes sense. Yep. So it's a common thing,
Well, realistically, when I look back over my life and from my experiences, we all have that one person we can speak to.
Yeah.
Right? But I think there is a large portion of men there who don't want to speak about what they are experiencing. Now, that person that they know they can speak to, it's an auntie or an uncle or a cousin or a mate down the road or a neighbour or anything along those lines, they know they can speak to. I recommend that you do go and have a bit of a chat to them. And if you don't have anyone like that, you can always find a priest. You can always go and see your GP and get a mental health plan and go and speak to a support worker or a counsellor or someone along those lines. And the thing about going and seeing a support worker or a counsellor is you can say anything you want because then you never really have to see that person again. But the benefits of unloading that emotional tension is invaluable.
Oh, yeah, and men don't like to put themselves in a vulnerable state voluntarily. Yeah, so it's a huge thing.
And you have to.
Realistically.
You've got to start doing that.
Yeah, yep.
You really do. Anyway, moving on, we've got a couple of strategies here that might help. One is brief periods of isolation can help. Going down the shed, you're angry, you got steam coming out of your ear holes, you're not feeling very well. Down the shed, do what you like to do best, whatever that is, tinker with something, make something, build something, pull something apart, spend a bit of time down there. That can help because sometimes men do need a little bit of quiet to process what's going on, particularly if it's a problem. Just to process it and accept it, restack it, get a plan. Men need logical plans of how they're going to move forward in times of trouble.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Set a new goal.
Yeah, set a new goal. Change tact.
Because if you work towards goals, and this goes for anyone,
yep,
it is 100% dependent on positive emotion. People are most happy when they're pursuing a new goal or working towards a desired goal. You will 100% experience positive emotion, and not just happiness. It's joy, enthusiasm, and it's the fact that when you say, I want to do this, that I want to do something is already a foundation of positive emotion. Instead of, you have to do it, you want to do it. Yeah. So it's already, it's already encouraging you to feel better just by doing something you want. So
and going down the shed and having a bit of peace and quiet, so you can actually think, and removing yourself out of the situation. You've come in the door, you worked all day, it's been 38, the beer's not warm, the wife's walked in, someone's just backed into the car down at the supermarket, right? And, your wife's flooded, and next minute your whole world's going, south, not in the direction you want to go. You haven't had a good week because you've bought new shoes and your toes hurt, whatever it is, right? And you're just getting to that point where it's going, I'm going to go in the shed for 20 minutes, half hour, and just restack that. Take that time. That's quite beneficial. But long periods of isolation can leave men vulnerable to negative consequences. So don't go down there and live in the shed for the next 3 weeks. That's not good, particularly if you're suffering depression. It's not good to isolate. You need to come and release some of that tension and some of that angst that you're harbouring in relation to the emotions that you're feeling. Access to family and friends is always good, right?
Yeah, we spoke about that.
Yes, we've spoken that extensively. Access support services if you feel you're in a crisis, a real crisis. We recommend you ring Lifeline. And I've got the number here. It's 1311. It's 131114. Ring Lifeline or 000, or have a conversation with your local emergency department, or ring that special friend. It's also recommended that we have a list in our phone of 5 people who you can talk to. So if you're feeling a bit that way and a bit vulnerable, ring those 4 or 5 friends. Go through that list of numbers until you can find someone to have a chat to, and just have a bit of a chat to them. And so you can actually articulate what's going on for you and just get through that awkward moment. Because 9 times out of 10, it's just a small period of time where you're going to be feeling like that. In the next hour or the next hour and a half, you can be feeling totally different.
Yeah.
In the next hour, you could win Tats Lotto.
Yeah.
That'll change your mindset, won't it?
Yeah, I know another cliche strategy is that what people always say, it just rolls off the tongue nowadays. It's like exercise.
Exercise.
It's like, just exercise.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, what do you mean just exercise? Yeah. You know what I mean? Let's start off with a 10-minute walk every day.
Yep. Walk around the block.
I suggest go sign up to a gym, but that's a bigger
that's a huge
barrier.
Step.
Yeah, that's a bigger barrier than just walking.
Yep.
Go put your shoes on and just walk.
Yep.
That'd be the first thing.
Yeah, walk around the block, or go in your local leisure centre, have a swim.
Yeah.
Boy, that takes a lot of tension out of it. Nice, cool dip in the pool. Just have a swim, float around the pool for 10 minutes.
I know sometimes when I can't get to the gym for a few days, I feel a little bit, I got energy build up, I'm getting a bit frustrated with things, but I go to the gym, do some exercise, I feel much better.
Yeah.
And it puts my mindset in a place where I'm working towards something already.
Yep.
So then it clears up my mindset. I get the foundation of already working towards a goal so I can tackle other things.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's a great strategy, mate. That's a really, really good strategy.
It's cliche, but and I hear everyone say it. It's like first thing to battle mental health and depression is exercise.
Yep.
And it's like literally join a gym.
Yep.
You're doing yourself a huge favour.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And some other strategies are get support. Get support within your community. Go and see friends. Motivational or positive lifestyle courses are really good because that keeps you in that zone, right? Reading books, attending Zoom meetings, and you're with like-minded people who want to lift their spirits. They want to do a bit better. So therefore you're setting goals and then you're achieving goals and then you're getting rewards and then see that cyclical thing starts to go.
And you're already manifesting a better life already.
Correct.
You're talking about it. You're listening to it.
Yep.
You're putting it out to the universe.
Yep. You're reading about it.
Yeah, it's changing your ways already. And
next minute you got more rewards coming your way than you have negatives. No more positives than negatives.
Yeah. And also another very important one is find God.
Correct. I've got that written here. Religious practice.
Yep.
Reading the Bible. Join alternative religious groups and or churches. Again, they have very wonderful, supportive communities and people you can talk to.
Yeah.
and people who've heard those stories before, and people who are willing to listen, and people who are willing to provide you with some company and companionship to actually go through some of those difficult times.
Yeah, well, that's right, and I think gives you the gratitude to focus on what you already have, although times are tough and whatnot. But again, gives you a community, brings you back to yourself, I guess, and grounds you. And I think finding God's the very first thing that should probably happen.
I think it's a great idea too. Actually, get a foundation of spirituality
and
that'll really, really help you. And you know what I've found, just in closing, with all those communities associated with church and religion, they've all got a good sense of humour.
Yeah, they do.
They can all have a good bit of a laugh with you about something, So, and that's the environment you want to be in, right? Okay, we can't be happy, be laughing and happy-go-Larry 24 hours a day. Life is not like that.
No, life is a catastrophe.
Yeah, basically, that we have to endure and we have to navigate.
Yep.
So, but if we can find places where we can have a bit of a laugh and enjoy a bit of company, we can go a long way with that. Anyway, that just about wraps us up today, mate. Did you have anything you'd like to finish off with?
No, I think. We could talk about this for another hour if we really wanted to. I think that's very close to our hearts. Is mental health, especially men's mental health. That is a scary statistic of upwards of 80% of suicides as males. That's worrying, and I don't know. I don't see that much more outreach either over the last few years. I'm gonna throw a bone out there. It's just there's not that much outreach in my opinion.
Outreach in terms of
helping males get through tough times. But then again, if males don't come forward, then there's the barrier. How do we reach the males? Yep. So that's Correct. A big barrier that we're not really focusing on, in my opinion. Maybe there is, but I think through this and through motivation talks and encouraging men, I think that has the biggest impact. Because some men don't need to sit down and talk about mental health. They just need to hear words of encouragement to improve their lives, because all of them are probably already know the answer and already know how to do it. They're just sitting there going, this, that, la, la. Yep. It's like they need to hear words of encouragement to go forward.
Absolutely they do. Absolutely do.
So
and you've just spoken to the group who we want to speak to. That's the group of people we want to speak to here on the podcast, The High Road, and through Aimed Motivational Empowerment Network. So that's Amen, and that's who we are going to speak to, because we're going to start those conversations and we're going to start supporting young men and to step into their truth and to reach their highest potential, because you can do it and you will do it, and there is a way.
Yep.
All right, I might finish on that.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Yes, thank you very much, all you out there, and I hope you've picked up something from it. Keep in touch on our Facebook and via the Aimed Motivational Empowerment Network website, and we're out there and we'd love to hear what you've got to say about our topics. Take care, and we'll see you in our next instalment. See you, Rem. Take care, mate.
Take the high road.
Take the high road.
See you later.
Bye-bye.